70 meters beneath the surface.
Like it's very cold this time around, right? So the divers went under cold.
Yo, Mr. Paul, big up, big up, yo.
Mr. Paul,
This one is our one more time. Shamandizi and the disaster. In the matter, she want the Vatican. Take a, she will feel him. That's what you feel him.
Beneath the surface.
Like it's very cold this time around, right? So the divers went under cold conditions where they were underwater, and also since the victims were trapped in the chassis in the boat, it took them time for them to cut the chassis to retrieve those boats. And also the depth was very deep. It was around 70 meters, and so for a diver to come out with the victim from the 70 meters ascending to the surface, it was a big challenge. Also, the other thing that they faced was of darkness, because we worked till late, around 200 hours, trying to retrieve all the boats, all the bodies were still intact. So far today, we've managed to retrieve 22 bodies, and there is operation still going on. And yes, this is the 5th day when the tragedy happened. But if you can check the milestone that we've got, it means we're confident that we'll manage to retrieve all the bodies. It's like on a normal hot weather, it takes the bodies to float, to ascend to the surface within 3 days. But now that is very cold, so it takes a bit longer. And we're expecting in the 7th day, everyone will be ascending, will be floating on the surface. So we're confident that, I assure you, we'll get all the bodies so that they can be buried awesome.
Right now, I'm joined by Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Mucheches. Baba Masera se?
Ndasera zvakanaka Masera.
Ndimi muri kutibatirawo basa rakapinda mumusha medu. Nhasi zvakamira sei?
Nhasi takwanisa kuwana mitumbi 22. Mizhinji mitumbi yacho yanga yakuflota ndokuti vatigarise vari pasi. But madivers nhasi anga achitora nguva yawo zhinji vachitarisa homwe dzese dzebhoti kuti vanoti hapana munhu akatekwa ari pasi pa.
Alright, so my bodies 22 ose, they've also been akuenda for identification ose here.
Yeah, my bodies ese once tauya nawo takutomaita hand over police, then neve kuchipatara kuenda ku identification.
Anditi. Alright, pane issue yezvechivanhu netsika dzedu maringe nematsaona aya, mune shoko ramunoda kutipa?
Zvechivanhu tine madzimambo muno. Tinofunga kuti madzimambo ndiwo anopedza nyaya
zvechivanhu. Alright. Alright, aiwa tinotenda chaizvo. Any other message amunoda kupa kucommunity takatarira zviri mukariba?
Very true. Ndinoda kunyatsotenda madivers ebody regiment, madivers esub aqua. Tinama madivers atibatsira basa guru iri vabva mucommunity muno. Tine community yeKariba yabatsira zvakawanda, mabhodzi emafishermen auya achibatsirawo, vamwe vachibatsira chitakura vanhu kuti vapone. So I would like to wholesomely thank my divers body regiment, my divers sub aqua police sub aqua unit, and my local divers.
Madivers nevose vakabata basa muri kutendwa nebasa ramuri kuita, and we hope the spirit ya display will continue up to the end to recover the last person. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Mucheches. Tinokutenda ine nguva yenyu. Ticharamba tichikubatai as more developments take place in the
Divers are working in an environment.
Stay tuned and stay blessed.
Where visibility can be extremely limited and conditions can become dangerous very quickly. There is darkness, there is cold water, there is pressure, and there is the enormous emotional weight of knowing that every dive could lead to the recovery of another victim. The operation is reportedly being led by Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Muchechesi, with the Zimbabwe National Army Marine Unit taking responsibility for the underwater recovery effort. The divers are not simply searching for bodies. They are helping families reach the final stage of mourning. For many families affected by this disaster, knowing that their loved one has been recovered can provide a painful but important sense of closure. It allows them to identify the victim, conduct burial arrangements, and give their loved one the dignity of being laid to rest. That is why the Army's promise to continue the operation carries such weight. The tragedy occurred on Lake Kariba, one of Africa's largest man-made lakes and a major part of the region's economy, tourism and transport network. But the lake can also be extremely unforgiving. Once a vessel sinks or victims disappear beneath the surface, recovery becomes a highly technical operation. Divers need specialized equipment. They need experienced personnel. They need careful planning. And they need to understand the underwater environment before entering it. At depths approaching 70 meters, even small mistakes can have serious consequences. This is why military marine units are often called upon for complex recovery missions. Their training allows them to operate in difficult underwater environments where ordinary rescue teams may not be equipped to work safely. But even with that training, the operation carries significant risks. The divers have to manage their air supply, pressure exposure, and physical condition while working in deep water. They also have to operate carefully around the wreckage. And because the operation is taking place after a major maritime tragedy, there is an additional emotional burden. Every discovery means another family receives devastating news. Yet for those families, recovery is also an act of dignity. The difference between knowing someone is missing and knowing that they have finally been recovered can be enormous. That is why the recovery operation should not be viewed simply as another statistic in the disaster. It is part of the humanitarian response. The reported recovery of 22 bodies in the latest phase demonstrates that the operation is continuing to make progress. But the reported death toll of 68 also shows the enormous scale of the tragedy. And the number may continue to change as recovery teams search the lake and authorities complete identification and verification processes. This is also where communication becomes extremely important. Families need accurate information. They need regular updates. And they need to know what authorities are doing to locate their loved ones. During disasters, uncertainty can become almost unbearable. A family that does not know what happened can remain trapped between hope and grief. Recovery operations can help bring an end to that uncertainty. And this is why the work of the divers deserves attention. They are entering an environment that most people could never safely enter with one objective: bring them home. There is also a broader lesson emerging from the Kariba disaster. Recovery is necessary, but prevention is even more important. Once the immediate operation ends and the families have buried their loved ones, Zimbabwe will still have to answer difficult questions about how the tragedy happened. Was the vessel properly maintained? Was it operating within its approved passenger capacity? Were weather and water conditions properly assessed? Were safety procedures followed? Were emergency
Hey, yo, Mr. Paul, big up, again. Yo,
Mr. Paul,
Chibonisa one more time. Chamandizi and the disaster. In my time, Chibondi Vatican. Take a, shame feeling. Just one feeling. One more time.